I think the one thing that's going to be changing, I mean, obviously it's a huge change for salary transparency for employers to post the job postings with. I think there's a big change on the candidate side as well. And I think we've all interviewed candidates in this group here. So we've all come across the salary conversation and we go, hey, what's your desired salary? And we get the pushback of, well, what's your budget, or what's the employer looking for?
Yeah.
And I'm a bit of a believer of like, yeah, you know what, that is on the onus is on the employer to know what their budget is, what all the factors are, all that stuff, to have that range. But then when I give that range, so like, let's say, hey, it's between 110 to 120,000. And candidate goes, good, I want to go for 120,000. Now you got to be prepared. You got to be prepared for the next question of why. What's your business case? Why do you think you want to take the highest range?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, the research will come in. That's where, I want to see a candidate having done the evaluation of their performance, their function, and all that kind of stuff, not just because I want it.
Yeah.
The easiest argument would be, I'm reading this job description and none of this is a wish list to me. I'm reading this description and I can already do all of these things. So I'm going to hit the ground running, because that's extremely valuable to an organization, as opposed to, well, I haven't done Workday, but I've done, PeopleSoft, or I've done some other thing. So it should be an easy transition. Or, well, I've never done that for employees in Europe, but how hard can that be? Like that, if you're saying, well, I'm going to learn these things because I'm good, you probably will. I'm sure you're fantastic at what you do and you'll be able to do those things. But to be able to come in and say, I already can do them, that's where you can maybe start to ask at the high end. But having those difficult conversations of saying, you don't meet everything that they're hoping for, so maybe something a little bit lower in the range is more appropriate.
Awesome. You kind of touched briefly on like stock options, and it kind of leads into our next question around, I guess, the whole package when you are offering candidates. So I guess the whole compensation. So, it's not always a base salary. I guess what other areas of total reward should candidates consider to determine if a job is right for them?
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, there's things like, how much vacation time do you have off? What are the benefit offerings? Because benefits are also like a really sneaky way of, it can be thousands of dollars difference that you're seeing in your net. It's like take home pay at the end of the year, because it's like, are the prescriptions covered 0% or 80%? And is your dental covered 75% or 100%? Or is orthodontics covered? Because it's like, guess what? If you're doing orthodontics, or your kid's doing orthodontics, that's thousands of dollars. So there's some little sneaky things in there. Now, when it comes to benefits, there's sort of negotiable things and non-negotiable things. Benefits is generally not negotiable. Like, you won't be able to say, okay, if you throw in orthodontics, then I'll come. Like, it's like, no, the benefits offering is what it is. But then there's things like equity. And equity, I think, is a completely misunderstood, or not even misunderstood. There's just a lack of understanding, I guess, of equity for candidates. And a lot of it is because it's the value is not known. And so because if I'm giving someone stock options, was even worse. But let's start with like a restricted share unit, which is basically an RSU. It's like giving someone a share in a company. And let's, for the simplicity's sake, we'll say it's a publicly traded company. So I'm going to give you 1,000 RSUs, restricted share units. It's like giving you 1,000 shares of this company. Now there's restrictions and there's vesting. And so it's like, well, you have to stay here a year to get a quarter of them and 2 years to get another quarter and things like that. So, but a lot of companies struggle to say, well, how do I tell them what the value of this is? Because if you say, well, a publicly traded company, our share price is $10. So this is worth $10 a share. It's worth $10,000. But the company might even be saying, yeah, but we expect growth. So in 4 years' time, when all this comes, this is going to be worth $50,000 for you. But you can't tell a candidate this is worth $50,000 because it isn't. And you don't want to promise anything like that. It gets you in a whole lot of trouble. Stock options becomes even worse, because how stock option works is you're granted at a publicly traded company. Generally, you're granted at the price that the market price currently is. So if that company's trading at $10, they can give you 1 million stock options, but they're giving it to you at a $10 grant price, which means, hey, you can buy 1 million shares at $10, but there's no advantage to you, because then you would turn around and sell them for that same value. So you actually need the market price to go up. So it's difficult for employers to explain the value. And so a lot of times they just don't. And they just say, we're giving you 5,000 stock options, and we hope that this is going to give you money in return. Or at a private company, which is even worse, to say, if we go public, this is the hope, and this is the hope, this is the number we hope to go public at, and things like that. So, but with all that said, absolutely candidates should be asking, what is the value of this? What's the value that you're placing on this? Because behind the scenes, they're not just picking a number and saying, I don't know, give them 1,000 stock options. There is a calculation to say, we're trying to give new hire candidates $10,000 or $20,000 and in this equity vehicle, and how we're valuing it is X. And so we're going to give you this many RSUs or stock options or some value there. And then that absolutely is something that can be negotiated. In almost all cases, equity is something that a lot of times, because candidates don't understand it, they just say, okay, 5,000 RSUs, I don't even know what those are, or I don't know what the value is, or so I'll just take the 5,000 RSUs. But it's something that absolutely you can kind of say, like, is there flexibility on this, or kind of what's the high end of the range that it could case? Now, a lot of times the answer might be no, because you don't know how to say, well, I deserve more.
Yeah.
But if you're leaving equity on the table, that's probably your best reason to say, hey, I'm currently at a company where I have X number of RSUs or stock options, and they're currently worth this, so I'm hoping that this could be larger. Or leaving at the end of a year, and if you're saying, hey, I'm leaving my bonus on the table, and so is there a sign-on bonus, or is there additional equity that I could receive, something like that.